Hello everyone, today is Tuesday, May 19th, 2020. My name is Evan and welcome back to another midweek market recap video. Now we're going to jump right into our market technicals dashboard here. You can see markets sold off really into the close on Tuesday here. Last hour of the day we saw selling accelerate. All of the major indices closed negative on the session, led primarily by the Russell 2000 and the Dow down 2% and 1.5% here on Tuesday. Now, despite the selling today, 5-day change numbers still firmly positive. We had a very strong start to this week, which we'll talk about in just a little bit. If we look at the major indices versus some of these key simple moving averages, we're above the 10, we're above the 50 SMA across the board. We are still below the 200 in everything except for the NASDAQ. Now, if we scroll down and take a look at sectors here, you can see mostly positive. We have consumer discretionary at the top of the pile, followed by materials and industrials. And on the downside, we have consumer staples, we have healthcare, and we have biotech. Now, in terms of major markets, oil at the top of the list, silver and natural gas, so a nice commodity spread there at the top of the relative strength list for the past 5 days. And on the downside, we're seeing some unwind here in VIX, down 9%, followed by TLT and IEF. So basically more of a sort of risk on look here, where some of the safety trades and fear in the market underperforming or really kind of coming out of the market. So if we take that, jump into our technical view here of the equity markets, if we look at the top left first, the S&P 500, you can see this is a daily time frame chart of the S&P 500 with our trend filters applied. And you can see that we are still, or we're back in to bullish trend here on the daily chart. Now, we did get this period late last week, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, where we started to soften up, we started to weaken up. You can see price briefly broke below our trend filter here. And we did see a universally negative week last week, but with the bounce back in strength that we saw yesterday, we started to recover that, gone back to green here in the S&P 500. NASDAQ in the top right still holding green. Bottom left is Russell 2000. You can see took an extra day but moved back into bullish territory here again after a little bit of some shaky behavior late last week, and same goes for the international markets in the bottom right. So if we were to look at each of those markets, we look at the S&P 500 to start. From a price action perspective, there are a few things I want to take note of this week. So if I go down to a daily chart, first things first is, of course, let's just take a look and admire sort of the Monday gap higher here in the market. So the S&P 500 staged a 3.15% return on Monday. That's a pretty big single day gain and the largest gain that it's seen in a few weeks or even a couple of months, probably going back to this day here in early April. So this was a very strong kickoff to this week for the markets. Now the so that of course is encouraging. The downside or sort of the concern here is just that it still isn't enough to break it out of this range. So you can see we are basically back to this 2940 area. Again, it's really an area in my mind. I don't want to be too precise on the exact value, the exact price level, but we're effectively talking about the highs here from April the 29th and the highs here from last week, the 11th, the 12th, and the 10th here in the market, or the 8th in the market. You can see we basically rolled over at this 2940 area. So we're back at it for attempt number 3, and with today's action, you can see we did not get any immediate follow through to the upside. So markets were trying to hold in there for most of Tuesday, for most of today, but we ended up again getting that selling pressure kind of come through the market into the close, and we did close near the lows of the session. So basically, looking at this, it's going to be of great interest here to see how we finish out this week and whether or not we can start to break out over 2940. I think that's going to be the important breakout momentum level here for the market. When we sort of take off the grid lines here and we just take a look at the action, you can see that we've basically gone nowhere in in the S&P 500 for over a month's time now. So basically, you could argue 25 trading days, 40, 35 calendar days is basically the time that we've been slogging mostly sideways here in the S&P 500. And we did post a chart, I think, on Twitter and StockTwits late last week, kind of pointing out this range and looking for a potential breakout in one direction or the other. So far, the bulls started the week off looking like they wanted to get it to the upside, but with the stall that we saw on Tuesday here, we have to be careful of the quick head fake and the kind of trapped buyers up here trying to play for this breakout, which could, again, yield some disappointment in the very short term. So be very interesting to see how it shakes out. Again, when we take it in context of the trend filter, we know we're back to bullish here. So, if we want to give the benefit of the doubt to anybody right now, it should be the buyers, just given the fact that we are trying to hold this bullish trend in here. But again, we still need that confirmation above 29.40. That's certainly the way I'm looking at it. Bottom end of the range coming down here around 27.70s, which would be essentially last Thursday's lows. So S&P 500, good progress, back to the top end of its range. Russell 2000, most impressive performance here in terms of a bounce this week. It staged a 6% rally on Monday. So again, a huge move to the upside. It was down about 5.5% last week. It recovered all of that in a single day, but notice today's action, there is no follow through. We are sort of, again, failed here into the close and then sold off and closed down 2% on the session right into this 133.50 resistance area. So again, we have this, we have the trend filter at our back. We have higher highs and higher lows in most of these markets here, but we're still waiting to get that oomph, that breakout, that momentum to the upside here. Russell 2000, something we can pay attention to, and of course, a big open gap here from Monday's open. When we look finally here at the NASDAQ 100, the NASDAQ, which at this point should be no surprise, has been the leading index for the U.S. markets. We can see that it did break out to new recent highs here in this trend today. But again, we reversed and kind of closed down below last week's highs and to the bottom end of or at the lows of today's session. So all basically kind of following lockstep with one another. The Dow, the NASDAQ, the SPY, the Qs, all trying to break out earlier in the day, failing, reversing, and closing near the lows. So just a good amount of indecision there. Keep everybody on their toes, nice and honest here into Wednesday's session. A couple of other markets I wanted to touch on here. Let's take a look at our credit screen. Well, really not too much here. I did want to talk about VIX, so let's just go to the VIX outright here. Let's see if we closed back over 30. So it looks like we closed right around 30. I'm not sure if this is the final settled value yet at the time of recording this, but again, the VIX was trading under 30 for most of today's session, kind of following back down to last week's lows. We did get a little bit of a reversal here, kind of perking up into the end of the day. So VIX kind of flirting with 30. We'll see if it can hold above there tomorrow, or really get back above there tomorrow. But interesting to see the VIX briefly kind of retesting that fairly key psychological level. I think a lot of people look at 30 VIX as sort of a line in the sand for strategies or views of how to view the market. So it'll be interesting to watch that. What else? If we look at sectors, we look at commodities next here with our trend filters on, you can see gold just continuing to perform here on the daily chart with gold top left screen. Nice bullish trend moving higher today, 57 basis points. Silver continues its tear to the upside here. Daily chart, you can see nice bullish trend there, continuing higher. Had a monster week last week. And even in the bottom left now, take a look at USO. For the first time, we're starting to actually get some transition going on here. Again, this is a daily chart on all of these instruments, but you can see USO, this is crude oil, finally bounced enough to kind of retest this trend area area. Again, this is probably where you'd want to be pretty susceptible or pretty skeptical, I think is the word I was looking for there, of this market. So be careful, after the very nice bounce that USO has enjoyed off of those lows, coming back into that trend filter and testing as we speak. Now, last but not least, one just individual stock I wanted to touch on here, and I think that's all I have for today, is Walmart. So Walmart here, big component of XLP, or defensive area of the market. You can see the big gap up that started this session. It did report earnings, traded all the way up to, or opened, I should say, up at around 131. That was basically the highs there, retesting the prior all-time highs for WMT. And then you can see just proceeding to sell off all day, almost running at 300% volume, closing at the lows. So a little bit of a concern here for WMT. We'll see if this does spill over to kind of other areas of the market. I don't know if I haven't looked at Target. So you can see Target, kind of a related company in the same space. Also seeing kind of open up near the highs, close at the lows. So it'll be interesting to see if sellers can find some follow through in some of these more defensive areas of the market. And once again, I think we should be paying attention to the weekly closes right across the board because we're at some interesting areas. So that's it. That's what I have for my notes this week. A little bit going on there. Big open Monday, giving a little bit back here on Tuesday at the top end of a lot of ranges, and waiting to see how this market follows through for these next 2-3 trading sessions. So that's it for me. Thanks so much, as always, for tuning in and watching. You can subscribe on our YouTube channel. Every Wednesday, Tuesday, Friday, we put out market videos, and of course, you can get those on our blog as well, thetraderist.com. Have a great rest of your day. We'll see you back here tomorrow with some swing trade ideas during the market session.